as someone who doesn't know a whole lot about mushrooms or fungi, what is it doing beneath our feet that I just have no idea about?
Well, I suppose sometimes I look at it as like the connective tissue of the earth, because there's a lot of relationships that are going on beneath their feet, between fungi and other microbes, like other bacteria and other like small animals that live in the soil. Also with the plants and um, then above ground, to draw like fungi are responsible for working with plants to draw in a lot of carbon into the soil and then also help improve the soil structure, create like more of a spongy effect in the soil, so it's actually holding water. And yeah, so there's a lot going on there. And
Is it
then
just beneath our feet? Like
uh,
it's
oh
fungi?
well, like fungal spores are everywhere. You're breathing in fungal spores like right now. And yeah, like someone once said to me that the world is almost like we're in the digestive system of the fungal kingdom. Um, but like that's also just microbes in general. So you can look at it that way, that we're so intertwined with the microbial world. And fungi are now starting to get more attention about their role in the microscopic world and what they're doing, how they're helping to decompose and recompose the world around us.
And when you say in the digestive system, as in they're literally like we're being ate by them kind of thing, or
Yeah, yeah, like for the cycle to keep going, like things need to decompose and
so
become.
they're kind of the I goes like the what you call it, the at the top of the chain.
Oh, right, okay. No, I wouldn't say they're like the apex predator or anything like that. It's not that show like The Last of Us. I haven't seen it, but people ask me about it all the time. No, it's more just that they're playing a role that's really important. They're playing lots of different roles in our lives that we overlook because we just don't see it happening. So in the soil, there's a certain group of fungi called mycorrhizal fungi, and they're actually connecting with the plant root and helping to like bring make nutrients bioavailable to the plant, and then in exchange the plant will give them sugars. And it's a really like simplistic way of putting it, because there's a lot of like deep research going into the complexity of that type of relationship, that type of symbiosis between the plant root and the fungi in the soil. So if you look up, say, like the Society for the Protection of Underground Networks, and mycologists such as like Toby Kears, or Marilyn Sheldrake, they're actually doing a lot of research where it involves sampling soils all across the world to build up a picture of the mycorrhizal networks across the whole planet, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I want to talk about more about that,
Yeah.
but I'll give you an introduction now, Joanne.
Great.
Thank you. So, Joanne Fullerton, you're a facilitator, food sovereignty advocate, and a community-rooted voice working at the intersection of land, food, ecology, and community well-being. You're based in Donegal. You work with organizations promoting an agro-ecological community food movement, is on the panel of facilitators for change makers. Donegal does communications work for Shielta Cree, an ecosystem restoration organization based in Monaghan, and you also run mushroom cultivation workshops. Your work is grounded in the principles of food sovereignty. You hold a master's degree in food security from the University of Edinburgh, have a permaculture design certificate, complete an MSc thesis on food local access, and also bring the practical perspective of being an experienced chef. Your work is driven by a belief that everyone eats, farming affects everyone, and damage to ecosystems ultimately harm us because we are nature. You've said that we owe ecosystems our lives and that community voice, grassroots work, and reconnecting with the land are not side issues, they are essential. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. So, where did your interest in what I would I say fungi or mycelium start?
Hmm. So when I was doing my permaculture design course, they we're talking a lot about like the different layers in of a forest and like the different parts of an ecosystem and the different roles that different species play. And fungi were mentioned, but no one was really, there wasn't a part of the course that was going really deep into it. So I remember just constantly like writing down in my notepad, like, what are the fungi doing? That you're talking about this fungal layer, but what are they doing? And then by coincidence, I was cooking my dinner one night and just listening to like YouTube podcasts. And this fella came on automatically talking about radical mycology, Peter McCoy. And he was talking, radical mycology is started off as a movement, I suppose, like a network of people who were taking like mycological skills into their own hands on a community level. So you could start like starting up a fungi lab, you know, so like collecting different fungal tissues and things like that. And the reason that people would do that is to work with fungi in different capacities. So that could be to grow mushrooms. It could also be to like help remediate, like clean up certain types of pollution or contamination that you don't want. But then also like giving respect to all the different ways that we already do work with fungi, you know, so like brewing beer, like yeast is a fungi, making bread. So that podcast in that moment, I was like, wait a minute. So fungi are doing all this different stuff. And if we work with fungi, then we can improve our capacity to work with nature, to like meet other ends that we want to as humans as well. So yeah, that was when I first started to think about fungi. And then at the time I was living in Scotland. So I just started to like look at who was doing what in Scotland, and I came across this group called Rise Mushrooms, and they grow oyster mushrooms on a farm on a community scale. And they also run workshops on how to grow mushrooms. So I started to get involved with them. I started to meet really, really cool people. And like their ethos is very much about using waste materials to grow mushrooms, and oyster mushrooms are really good for that because oyster mushrooms will like grow on almost anything. So they'll take like agricultural waste, or you know, you've probably heard of people like growing mushrooms on coffee grinds and things like that, like that kind of stuff, you know, because it just makes a lot of sense to be able to grow a nutritious protein-based food off of stuff that you might otherwise throw away.
Why is that? Like stuff that we would throw away, it thrives on.
Well, it's not like, oh, it's like anything that you threw away, but if it's like carbon, you know, like carbon-based like straw or like wood chip or sawdust, you know, it just depends. But it could also be, you know, like people have grown mushrooms, say like on like the corn cobs,
Corn cobs that we would eat.
the
core of them.
So, yeah, the core, yeah.
Literally grow mushrooms on them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so there's just lots of different materials that you might not have any use for, but you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can grow mushrooms on that. So that's what a lot of people, that's the hook for a lot of people, you know, is to be able to grow food on things that are otherwise inedible, like turn an inedible substance into an edible thing. So yeah, so I found out about mushrooms when, and kind of got really interested in the concept of working with fungi through permaculture, and then like started to meet more people that were also interested in it. And then when I moved back to Ireland, I found myself down in Monaghan at Sailch Cree, and that's where things started to accelerate a little bit. So I started doing workshops there, growing oyster mushrooms in buckets on straw, sometimes using coffee, sometimes using wood chip, and then I started growing mushrooms on logs at home.
yeah, because I do see them growing on trees sometimes.
Yeah,
Like at the bottom of the trees, yeah. Or logs lying on the ground. Fallen trees, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So some mushrooms will grow on live trees and some mushrooms will grow on like branches and yeah, logs that are already starting to decompose themselves. It's a really satisfying way to grow mushrooms because like obviously like depending on the size of the log is going to determine how many mushrooms you get and for how long, but with log cultivation all going well, you're going to inoculate your log, which you just hammer in these little myceliated dowels. It's like, you know, IKEA furniture, those little things that
Yeah,
put together. So you hammer those into the logs and then you look after your log, like you keep the conditions right so the log's not going to dry out or other factors that are going to affect the mushroom growth are going to be negatively affected. So yeah, with the then like like over years you can keep producing mushrooms from that log. And shiitake mushrooms are really nice. They're much nicer when they're growing on logs rather than on straw. And they're really good for you and like great breakfast addition.
I haven't heard. What do you call it? Mushroom?
Shiitake?
Shiitake? No, I haven't. I can't say that I know a lot of names of them, like, but no, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, like shiitake is it's a very popular mushroom. You know, but maybe just not as much in Ireland. People are used to the button mushroom, or portobello or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah. But shiitake is a good mushroom, like slightly longer shelf life than oyster mushrooms.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just really tasty.
What's the difference? So a mushroom's obviously the part that grows out of the ground. Then you have fungi, or fungi is the name for the whole, and then you have the mycelium.
Yes.
Can you tell me?
Okay, so there's the fungal kingdom,
Yes.
and then within that kingdom, you have a lot of different species that are going to myceliate, which basically means create like a network. A mycelium is like the cell structure is like made out of chitin, and what it's doing is it's growing through.
When you say made out of chitin,
Sorry, chitin is like it's the same material that you'll get in like wood lice or like shellfish. You know, it's
Okay.
a really, really
okay,
hard material. And so while the strands of the mycelium are very fine themselves, it's actually made out of chitin, which is this like super strong material. So
it's long, strong strands.
yeah, so like a spore will land, and then like if the condition
And the spore comes out of the mushroom.
exactly, yeah. So the mushroom is the reproductive
Yeah.
organ of the fungus, basically. The spore will land, and then it will grow into initially it will grow into something called a hyphae, which is just this like little branch. And then sometimes other hyphaes will meet together and they'll like share genetics.
So when you say grow on the ground, it'll land on the ground.
It depends. It could be on it could be in the soil, or it could be on other like
Like a
substrate.
branch.
It could be a branch
Or
or
anything.
yeah. So it's an incredibly diverse group of species and that have lots of different adaptations, like different ways of getting through life.
So the spore will come out of the mushroom and the wind will blow it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it could if it's one day, it could go anywhere. It'll land. I know they're always looking to reconnect then.
Yeah, well, it's just like fungal genetics, like fungi sex is super complicated.
Fungi sex.
It's like really, really complicated. Yeah, so you know, you kind of simplify it down for the sake of being able to just understand it a little bit. But yeah, you know, like a spore, like a couple of spores could land, and the hyphae will start to grow. Those hyphae will meet, and then you know, like if the vibe is right, then they'll just keep growing, and it'll grow into this network. But like that's not how it works all the time with yeah. It's a whole other podcast.
But that network itself, there's only one network, or do they have multiple networks that all like different types of networks?
Right, yeah, like different networks, different mycelial networks can work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're of different structure, different makeup, but they can interlink.
Yeah, like sometimes they're just working together, and then sometimes they're actually like sharing genetics. Yeah, it just depends. It's not simple.
Yeah.
So like yeah, so they could be growing in the soil. So this mycelial network, it could be growing in the soil, it could be growing on a branch. That branch could be alive, it could be dead. It could be like there's lots of different places that mycelium could take hold, and then what it's doing is basically digesting the environment around it. So like the saprophytic fungi, especially, so they're in the wood and they're digesting the wood while they're in it. So there's actually a funny name for like the mycelium's kind of growing radially out, right? And at the edge, it has these little tips, and they're called Spitzenkorpers, which means like pointy body in German, I think. And so that little pointy body at the very end it's like it itself is decomposing and recomposing, like while it eats its environment.
So when you say eating, is it eating like a live tree or a dead tree?
It depends on whether it's on a live tree or a dead tree, and that will depend on the species of fungus that you're talking about.
Okay.
And then not every fungus is going to produce a mushroom.
Because I always thought it was just one network. It's only one type of network. Even all this, that's my understanding of. Although there's different mushrooms, they all grow, or they're growing from one type of network. You know.
Ah, right, okay. No, like, and then there's some fungi that aren't even really producing a mycelial network. Like you have yeasts and things, and like you have some fungi that don't even like a typical characteristic associated with fungi is that they release spores, and yeah, a lot of them do, but like there is still some that don't, like produce little sacs to reproduce instead. So it's just like it's super diverse when you're looking at the fungal kingdom itself. And then you're looking at mycelium and how that's acting, and sometimes it's like I say, digesting something that it's living in, but then other times it's working with the plant roots in the soil. And then so yeah,
Sorry, do the plants need them?
most do.
They do need them. So why do the plants need the mycelium?
So the vast majority of plants need the fungal association, along with other. You don't want to steal the limelight away from bacteria and other types of microbes, but they need them to be able to form these associations for nutrients transfer and soil structure and all sorts. It's going to help the plant survive. And like not all mycelial networks are going to produce a mushroom as well. Like some are just chilling out in the soil doing their thing, and you're never going to see a mushroom above ground. But then others do produce mushrooms. So so for example, turkey tail.
That's a type of mushroom, is it?
Turkey tail is a type of mushroom. Yeah, you get it all over Ireland. It's a really beautiful mushroom, and people would make a tea out of it. It's not directly edible. You can't just like chop it up and eat it, but you can make tea. And yeah, so that's a mushroom that will grow on a log that has, like been broken off a tree, or like maybe a human has like, actually chainsawed it off a tree. And then you'll have mushrooms that are growing you'll have mycelium that's growing in the soil that will produce soil-based mushrooms, so like chanterelles or Amanita muscaria, fly agaric.
No.
The red and white mushroom.
Yep. Oh, that's what? Is there no name for that?
Fly agaric, Amanita muscaria.
No, that's the big name, but does it get another nickname? No, a short one. No. This is the big red one with all the white spots on it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard a different name because they all have huge names. They're like, for me, and it's a lot to take in.
Yeah. Like the fly agaric, I suppose, is the name, the most kind of common name.
Yes.
But the fly agaric's not growing on a log, it's growing in association with the roots of a tree. And it'll be the same for like a few other mushrooms. Like chanterelles would be quite a popular one that people would know of. But yeah, so they're filling different ecological niches. Some in the soil and some just helping to decompose wood helping to decompose the world around us. We kind of need that. Like we need things to decompose so that we can be used again
Yeah.
for life.
Was the fungi word kingdom, was that there before the plant kingdom?
Uh,
Is that? I feel
yeah.
like I've heard that comes first and the plants came after.
Yes. So, oh, well, like scientists, like humans recognized plants before they were like, oh, there's plants, and then fungi are just kind of like that weird plant. But yeah, and then eventually, they started to hold their own rightful kingdom.
And that was recognized in
1969, I think.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So it's not been a long time that we've been talking about fungi just for themselves. There's a lot, not much of the conservation efforts are going into protecting fungi despite them playing such an important role in the soil, in our ecosystems, and
And that's that's the work that you're doing at the minute.
I suppose like it comes into it. Like my thinking about doing the mushroom workshops is like it's cool to be able to grow your own mushrooms. Um, Especially in a climate where it really is suitable, to grow your mushrooms here. It's warm and damp. That's great mushroom weather. But it's more than just like, oh, we can all just grow mushrooms. It's also that we can just get closer to nature and natural systems and understand what's going on. So whenever you actually, like in some of my workshops, we'll grow like oyster mycelium on coffee. Or even,
When you say coffee, these are the coffee after it's been
yeah,
used. Yeah.
spent coffee grounds, yeah. And so like people will get to then like go home with that and it'll be like coffee and cardboard in a little jar. You can see through the jar and you can see the mycelium growing. And that gives people more of a visceral understanding of what's going on in places that they can't see. So like there is some footage of plant roots and mycelium connecting, with like people like use the incredible like microscopic like videography to be able to capture that. But yeah, it's just something that we don't see. So like bringing people to learn about fungi through mushroom cultivation, I suppose, is what I have been doing. But then like looking at that in the bigger picture of how we, like the food sovereignty principles, which is about being able to like grow our own food, having a right to steward the ecosystems that we owe our food to. Being able to come together as communities and make decisions about the quality of our food, and yeah, like Ireland's in a position where it's like imports a lot of food, and so for me, like growing mushrooms means that we can sit around and we can open up the conversation about food, where food's coming from, and new and interesting ways that we can look at local food access and community.
And with the food, see the mushrooms that you grow, so the benefits to them, so I assume they're ones that you would eat. Are there other different health benefits?
So the mushrooms that I've grown, oyster mushrooms are
Or
grown
in your workshop, for example, like
yeah. So like the oyster mushrooms are a beginners go to because they're so easy to grow. But we've also grown like lion's mane and shiitake as well. Lion's mane's a really nice one because it's like an interest. You've probably heard of it.
yeah, yeah,
It's a really interesting
strong, so
looking
it's
mushroom. Yeah.
strong taste as well.
Oh, do you think so? Yeah.
I did,
Yeah.
but I had it as a like you mix it in a drink. I'm not sure if it was the right way. Was it?
Um,
Very
like
recommended.
I would say the best advice that I've ever heard about getting mushroom supplements is just get the supplement from someone who's growing the mushrooms themselves. So you have like Gaelic Fungi Farms down in Carlow.
What are they called?
Gaelic Fungi Farms in Carlow. They grow their own mushrooms and they make tinctures and they sell the mushrooms. And that's the best way to go because you don't want to, you don't know what you're getting when you get random powders and it's all mixed up in the one. And, you get these packets where it lists like all the different types of mushrooms. And it's like, why is anyone doing that? Like, I think it's helpful to be a little bit more strategic, and think about why you're doing what you're doing. So, um, if if you really think that the mushroom is like medicinal, then like treat it that way and don't just be like firing it into you left, right, and center without any thought. Um, it's like there's a huge boom going on in the medicinal mushroom world now. So there's a lot of people trying to get like a slice of the pie, and if you want like high quality, then like mushrooms that have been grown well by someone who really cares, and has made the tinctures or the powders, with good intentions, that's the best way to go.
Yeah, and you're talking about in terms of like supplements,
Yeah.
using them in that form.
Yeah, yeah. Like eating mushrooms is obviously great. And then when it comes to lion's mane, yeah, it's a really interesting mushroom to work with, like you can like slice it up. Like slice it up really fine and fry it. It's really nice that way. So yeah, it's it's about mushrooms, but it's also about our relationship with our environment and like thinking about why we're doing what we're doing. Um yeah.
Hmm. Uh, Thinking about the environment, do you feel that there's a lack of that then? Do you feel that people don't think about the environment or where we are as a society?
Hmm. I think that people forget that we're biological. Pretty much, it's yeah, I think that we spend a lot of time like indoors behind screens and like this like the modernity of like yeah, of life is it helps us forget that like we're biological and like like sensitive beings, and so like we're part of the natural systems around us. So yeah, I think that there's more interest in it. Like there definitely is more about like connecting with nature and everything. I suppose like when I moved back to Ireland, that's the question that I was asking myself.
Well, maybe, sorry, just like, do we look at food as an object? Maybe a lot of us. Am I guilty of that? Probably to some extent, you know. I want to have these conversations because I'm genuinely interested, but do I make the time to properly connect with the food I eat? I probably don't. So no.
Yeah, food is like to me like food is a way to connect with nature, and I suppose like every like a realization that I had was that like everything is edible to something, so and it was through thinking about fungi that I realized that it's like eventually everything is edible to something eventually.
Yeah.
And
Everything, even like hard materials and stuff, because the environment will just eat them up.
yeah, like okay, so like heavy metals can
Yeah.
be broken down, but like it
Environment.
could be digested.
Yes.
Yeah, and
So everything's
um,
edible, yeah.
and I suppose it's just like looking at food uh as part of the natural world and how like everything has to like interact with the world to be able to get food. Whether you're a worm or you're a bird or you're a whale, like, where humans are no exception. And so it's the nature of the relationships that we have that um that are important. So are we going to the supermarket to get like loads of food that's like wrapped in plastic, that's like highly processed, like ultra processed food, or do we have a diversity of relationships with local growers? Are we going out to like forage nettles to make nettle soup? Like there's it's like looking at how we are interacting with our environment and in our lives that that maybe are going to tell us about our relationship with food.
Mm. What has been the change for you then since you would have changed your relationship with the food that you eat? Because I assume there was a point in time that that wasn't your way, or maybe it was.
Yeah, I suppose it is actually something I've kind of been interested in for a long time. So like I turned vegetarian when I was 7.
Well, that was,
I
how
just
did you
drew out.
decide at that age?
I
I thought you were going to say
I did
17.
no, like I did have some influences. Like I had like a friend who had vegetarian parents. My older sister was experimenting with being vegetarian and stuff. And but yeah, I think I just started to realize what it was, and my discomfort was that I didn't know. I didn't know enough. So yeah, people said it was a phase, but it wasn't a phase.
So it was like the animals that you were conscious of that we were eating.
Yeah, yeah, that was my 7-year-old mind at the time.
How did you even think of that at 7? That's, I mean,
Yeah, so
lovely.
I think like that's where it started. And yeah, like my father was a wholesale fruit and veg wholesaler. So I would see like big boxes of vegetables come into the house regularly. And so there wasn't this thing where it was like you had to go to the supermarket to get things. I was like being able to join the dots from a young age. And then I was really interested in biology and psychology and health. And I like by the time I'd done my undergraduate in biology and psychology, and then by the time I got to the other side of that, I was still like sitting thinking like, what am I really interested in? So I remember there was one day I was on Skype to one of my friends. I was just like, yeah, I'm in my 20s. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I was like, but you see this banana? And I was like, holding the banana. Like, this banana. I want to know, like, where this banana came from. I want to know why this banana exists. I want to know everything about this banana. Like, I want to get into, like, food policy or something like that. That's the kind of direction that I wanted to go in. And and then I started looking it up, and I realized that you could actually do a master's degree in food policy, but that was in London. And I didn't want to live in London, so I decided to stay in Edinburgh, and I found a master's called food security. And yeah, it wasn't really like food security, the actual
Yeah.
word itself kind of
What
threw
is
me off at
food
the time.
security?
Food security is a term that is used to talk about how we need, like, this is the thing, like food security can be a problematic term, because it's talking about like, does a population have enough food, and it's like, well, who decides? And like going into like, who decides how to secure a population's food? Like there's in the term food security, there's already signs of issues around like power structures, and that's why I've been more captivated by the term food sovereignty, because that is addressing like the power structures. So
When you say power structures,
yeah, so have you heard of like say like a food desert?
no.
Right. So food desert is defined as an area, place that doesn't have any food. So would you say that it's because, okay, that area doesn't have any food because no supermarket has been put there? Or would you say that an area doesn't have any food because the people in the community that live there haven't got the power or the circumstances to be able to make decisions to produce food in that area for that community? So it's just about like who decides who decides how secure your food is?
And in your local area,
Yeah.
because well, I'm also thinking about your question because you kind of asked me to. Um, so sometimes people may open a store. You live there. There might be maybe some people don't want to do that. Maybe some people don't have the capacity. Or then also there could be a supermarket that may open there or may not open there. It may look at it. Maybe it's not a good opportunity. Um, that's what I'm kind of thinking about when you say food desert or that area.
Yeah, yeah, but I guess it just depends, like, what if someone opens a store, who owns the store, who where are they getting their food from? You know, like what are the principles that they're sourcing their food on? Like is it about like supporting local farmers to look after the soil and produce food? Or is it about getting the cheapest food at the lowest price from anywhere so that you can increase your margins?
Which is mainly what is how our countries are run predominantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's why food security as a term is obviously it's like the idea of having a secure food source is great, but saying that you're going to come into a place and I am going to secure your food for you isn't it doesn't appeal to me as much. So when I did the masters in food security, like I was like reading through the different modules and I was like, oh, like interrelations in food systems, and I was like, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to like get in touch with the complexity of of food systems, of what even are systems. And I like that masters really got me in touch with like the problem. I think, which, yeah, I was like, now I know, okay, now I understand the problem a lot
And
more deeply,
what would you say the problem is?
is ultimately power structures and disrespect for the earth and um uh not
But who like
seeing, yeah.
the power structures, as in like who are the power structures in that sense? Like
Like just recently, like one of the biggest carrot producers in Ireland closed down. You know, like it was huge carrot production for, like, yeah, it was like massive. And so like the price of carrots had been going down despite inflation. So eventually, like you're going to go out of business, and it's like, why, like, if you want to look at power structures, it's like, why was that farm not empowered to stay open? And we already import so much of our food, or like just like the community. Okay, so like in Ireland, there is a food movement happening, and there's every year in Jordan there's a weekend called Feeding Ourselves. Like all the different farmers, like organizations, like one called like Talamh Bio, which is like a farmer-led network addressing issues around food and farming in Ireland.
where's that?
Um,
I've been to an event.
in Tipperary.
I don't know, maybe Limerick. Goes nuts.
Oh yeah, knots. Yeah, there's knots as well. So like yeah, so you have Silch Creed, the organization in Monaghan that I work with. You've got Talamh Bio, you've got the Jordan, the Eco Village crowd. Um, you've got lots of different organizations all over Ireland, and they are like working to try and make farming like a good livelihood for people in Ireland, for that farming to be grounded in uh like respecting nature and working with nature and understanding natural cycles to be able to produce like healthy food. And then also like bringing like communities closer together and building those relationships within the communities so that people know the face of the farmer that grew their food, and don't just know food through this like plastic packaging. So like those organizations, and like, there are like quite a few people in Ireland who are working to empower farmers. It's, I guess, if you want to look at the power structures, you can also look at like who doesn't have power. You know, um, are people accessing the food that they want to access? If people could choose to be able to go outside of their home and access different types of food, would they? Or are they happy with what is available to them? And um it's almost like it's like a natural right. Like everybody's got to eat, whether you're a human or not. We've all got to eat, so we need to give a lot more respect to how important it is whenever you look at all of the different things that are like underpinned by food. It could be health, it could be your livelihood. It's just social significance as well, and cultural significance of food, um, and how it is our relationship. Is our relationship with nature. Like being able to eat something.
Do you feel then that there there is that availability here in say in Sean Donegal where we can get access to food that we know where it's coming from?
We definitely need more of it. Like there are people in Sean and there are people in Donegal who are doing like some great work. And yeah, I always be careful about naming people, because then there's the people who I don't name.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a fella called Ronan. He's running a farm called Shy by Nature, down just like outside Donegal town. And yeah, he's doing like veg boxes, so like that's like really great. And yeah, like there's a few people growing like around it in a showing. And you also have Mulroy Meadow Farms across the loch there. And they do like meat and eggs and things. Um, it does take more effort to be able to. It's not a case of just like going to the supermarket and getting the food.
So that's definitely something that I agree with, and I find it if it was more convenient and more accessible, it would definitely make it easier for everyone, and it could probably have more of an impact. But I do think there is some kind of movement happening where there is people doing like you just mentioned, and like I've made some connections throughout Donegal and a little bit further too, where they have their own network set up. People come by, but I don't feel like there's that many here that I'm aware of, like nearby that I can. You have to think of like what's accessible to for driving,
Yeah.
and like if you're on the road, people are busy, people have kids, and their kids are, there's a lot going on too. So it's definitely not easy as much as I myself would love if it was yeah, more accessible.
Yeah. So like that's it, and you wouldn't really only put only one, like there's other people who, like, because I'm involved with Changemakers Donegal as well. It's a community project run by Initial Development Partnership, and so I find myself in a room with people who are expressing like their values around like what community means, and it comes up like often that like people do want food that where they know the face of the person that's growing it, and it's food that they actually like want to eat, and they also like they know how to prepare it. It is a huge thing that also needs to be taken like a lot more seriously. Being able to cook on a community level is like a really beautiful thing to be able to do. And yeah, like it's something that I think it is a craving on a community level here. It's just about actually coming together and making it happen. So, um, just recently I've started like farming, with a fella just like up the peninsula a wee bit. And so a group of us are now on his land, and yeah, like we're growing lots of different stuff. Like we've planted cucumbers, there's cabbages, there's garlic has just recently gone down. Um, like raspberry bushes, like loads more. Like there's more happening than
Is
I'm
it
aware of.
a good few people doing it on the
Yeah,
island? Can
yeah.
anyone do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are more than so
So how does it work?
Tora Tulun is the which means produce of the land. And that's just the name. It's just started up. Nobody really knows exactly what it's supposed to be. I think that it's quite nice to not actually make things too rigid, but there are people and they're coming together and they're working on the land, and that could mean like, moving wheelbarrows of compost and like building beds, putting down cardboard, like planting seeds, like talking about a growing plan, looking at irrigation systems, and then like also thinking about maybe like what we don't know. And like we have a lot of knowledge in the group, but there might be things that we don't know, and we can like ask people to come along and do a workshop or whatever. And yeah, if people want to be on the land growing food,
To grow their own food, they can.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if I wanted,
exactly.
I could go out and plant whatever I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And also
It's
now
not.
it would be good because I mean I don't know much about that, so there's a bit of a group there to help
Yeah,
and
exactly,
learn. I
exactly.
know you'd be running workshops too, but like the thought of me going to plant mail and stuff, I'm like, oh, where do I even start? Do you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Exactly. So it's a supportive network, and that was something that I felt that I really needed, because it can be it is hard work. You have to stick at it, and um
Rewarding though.
yeah, it is rewarding, but it is just so much more fun when you're doing it with other people. Um
But the process too of it, that definitely, but then growing your own and cooking your own and sharing it with others
mhm.
must be, I assume you do that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like I don't know, I guess I get a lot of value and meaning out of it. So, like the first day that we were out it wouldn't be the first day. It's like maybe it was the second week, and we were out at Tora Tulun. I hope I'm saying it correctly. And Gary gave us all cabbage.
Jerry,
Gary McLaughlin, so he owns the land out there, and he's the person who's very kindly opened it up to be
that's very
like
nice of him.
yeah, like a social farm or community growing space, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so he gave us all a red cabbage, and then we went home. I went home and I made like pickled cabbage, and it was like the most beautiful, vibrant, crunchy red cabbage that I've ever had. And you could look at it and be like, oh well, that's just a cabbage. But to me, it was a symbol. It was a symbol of community being like literally nourishing process. And yeah, it's also sharing, like nourishing and sharing. These It's important stuff for people who are like living close by to each other. Like you want to be able to show that you care and also share and be nourished from the land with the people who live around you. And if you're not doing that, then like what are you what are you doing? Like, I'm not saying it has to be like the central thing to everyone's life. But like as a being of the earth, like would you like to be nourished by the land around you? And then if you do, then well, go to Gary's farm.
Yeah, but there's also the element of learning to grow your own food, becoming self-reliant, because that comes back to the the food security, the reliance.
Yeah, like, it,
I'm not saying that you're going to be able to 100% live
yeah.
sustainably off growing that, but I mean um, it's one source of your own food and your own understanding to live, sustainably.
Yeah. Like I think that knowing how to do it and appreciating everything that goes into it, like having an appreciation of the complexity of soil and the soil food web, and how everything can work together to be able to produce like really delicious and healthy food. Like even knowing enough to have an appreciation of that will help you just at least support the people who are doing it. So the farmers who do have an appreciation for the soil food web, who do understand the risks around using like artificial chemicals in the land, who do really like want to produce food for like the health of their communities, like so it's not that everyone has to go out and be a farmer. It's more about at least appreciate what good farming is. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and what about the soil? You mentioned soil.
Yeah.
Like, because I have a little understanding, but I think people just look at soil as soil, things growing it, and that's it. How do you look at it?
Uh, yeah, like I think it's like, like the Green Revolution.
Sorry?
Sorry?
The Green
The
Revolution?
Green Revolution was like, let's produce like lots of food, like let's get artificial nitrogen down, let's force the land to do what we want to do. Let's have these huge monocrops. And let's like have a lot of like international trade with food. And it was more this idea that you're going to force the land to do a certain thing, and it's all going to be boxed up into these monocrop farms, and like factory farms and things like that. And it was all about like producing a lot of food, not necessarily a huge diversity of food, but just like quantity wise a lot. And that so-called green revolution has a lot to answer for in terms of like the degradation of soils that we see like across the world. And so like now that in like more recent years, it's becoming more in like in it's becoming more popular to think about soil in the complexity that it actually like exists in. So
Yeah, because soil can be like dead or alive kind of thing, isn't
well,
it?
the soil is alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not alive, it's not soil. I
Yeah, but
suppose. Yeah.
do you think like people even? I don't think a lot of people may not even comprehend that soil can be dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's like it's dirt.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of dirt, like.
Yeah. Uh it's alive and it's full of different species that are wanting to make relationships and do fill their little niches. And uh like there's a like God, there's loads of reasons to look after the soil, but in terms of actually producing food, uh like so for example, even just like like the soil acting as a sponge and being able to cope with say like heavy rains, which we get a lot of in this country, a lot of rain, so you want your soil to be alive so that whenever that rain falls, then it's actually there's like water-based life forms in the soil that are ready to actually do something with the water that's falling. um Otherwise you're just kind of you're getting water like sitting on top, and it's not actually like going anywhere. And then you get like waterlogging and everything. So yeah, different places with different like, coping with different weather patterns and everything are going to need to do different things with the soil to be able to grow food. But like the principles are pretty much the same anywhere you go, is that you need organic matter and you need microbes in the soil to be able to hold soil structure for the plants, to be able to hold water in the soil for the plants. And also then I guess that's where the mycelium and the mycorrhizal fungi like can come into the conversation too, is that they're the ones that are like breaking down the nutrients to make them bioavailable for the plant. Like
Um, So
bacteria are in there doing things too.
yeah, so the mycelium is breaking down the bacteria
It's making it bioavailable, yeah.
for the plants to grow. So when you put fertilizer on them, what changes that?
Fertilizer is like fast food for the plants. Yeah, it's
So what's beyond the soil? The plants eating the fast food.
yeah, like if you can get nitrogen, just or you can just get it. It's just there. It's bioavailable. It's there. I'll just take that. Like, I don't need the the plant. Don't need to form more of a complex relationship in this exchange of energy to be able to get the nutrients. So that means that there's no need for the fungus. Plant's just going to grow. But it
The
does.
less nutrient.
Well, yeah, like the soil over time isn't going to be benefited from the other, like from the soil structure and water retention that microbial life will sustain. So, yeah, it's like it's kind of like you can also look at it in the human world, like the complexity of the relationships. Like, are you just going to go to drive through McDonald's and it'd be like, okay, burger, thank you, and drive on? Or do you have a actual relationship with, say, the farmer who produces the eggs? And yeah, it's by having a more of a close relationship, whether that's a human relationship above ground or whether it's a root to fungus relationship below ground. And with those relationships comes a diversity of different actions and exchanges, and with that diversity you're getting a more resilient ecosystem, whether it's the resiliency, like the resiliency that's in the soil is connected to the resiliency above the soil. So our community resiliency and being able to nourish yourselves, like the resiliency of the soil is foundational for that. You can't have a strong, resilient community on.
So we're like an offspring. We're like an offspring of strong soil.
Yeah.
Healthy soil.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If we don't look after the soil,
Yeah.
we're not gonna make it anyway.
I feel like I've seen community gardens now. I remember being on a train coming out of London. I always used to see these loads of look like little plots of plants. I don't know if that's them or not, but I assume that's a community garden that everyone just comes to grow. Loads of greenhouses, for example. Would that be a community garden? I assume that there's not going to be greenhouses there, but maybe there will be.
A polytunnel, they're very handy, kind of like essential parts of
We just have them as well.
Do I have them?
No, well, in the community
we have
garden.
one. Okay, yeah. So I would call that more of a community farm, but that's maybe splitting hairs. Yeah, no, there's a polytunnel there.
A community farm, yeah. It sounds like more of a community farm than a garden.
Yeah, but community gardens are also very important and can, create can be a really good food source for people. But there is this thing where there seems cute, like, oh, let's do a cute little community garden. But yeah, like community farm is maybe like speaks more towards it being like an actual place for food. There's more food being produced for more people. Or yeah, maybe it's not like we've all divided up our like allotments, like where we had like, okay, that's your bed and it's my bed. It's more about like deciding together like what we want to grow together and helping each other do it. Less like, yeah, you could get like allotments in cities and things, so people will, some people will wait like years to get on a listing to get an allotment in some more urban areas. and that's grand. Like that's if that's what somebody wants, that's like great for them. It's not so much what we're doing at Torah Tulun. It's it's more social. It's more about deciding what we want to grow, and then like enjoying the process of doing it. And yeah, sometimes you go out and it's raining, sometimes you go out and it's cold.
It's typical. I mean, if you live in Ireland, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I've just embraced the weather.
Exactly. And what do you feel motivates you then to like? Why are you so driven to have an impact with this work?
Yeah, I suppose like why am I so driven? It's just like I said, I've been thinking about it for a long time. Thinking about where food comes from and the significance of it. Um, all of the ripple effects that happen because of certain of a food, of what if it's a banana, like like what happened to soil that the banana was growing on, like what happened to land before the banana tree was planted there, how long's the banana tree's been growing there, like the person who harvested the banana, like how much money did they get, who owns the farm, like who organized for that banana to be transported all across the world to me, and then the person who owns the shop that's selling the banana, like who are they? Is it a person or is it a corporate entity? They give all of these different things that like, which is why we talk about like food systems, because it's basically like the food system is like a system of systems. So your respiratory system is just as much a part of the food system as the economic system. Or, you could look at the tech systems. It's all these different, like a system's just a way of looking at the world and trying to understand the complexity of the relationships. And then like I guess to answer the question, my motivation for looking at food and taking food really seriously and working on it on a community level is because I am just very alert to how important food is because of all the different interrelationships that are needed to be able to produce food, and then the impacts that the food has once you've eaten it.
Yeah, you talked about something then too, is like the control of food, or is that the right term? But like the food being somewhat controlled. Look, I mean, there's loads of stuff goes across the internet of like the food trying to be controlled in a way that it's all corporate, or they're trying to own everything. Is that something you've come across?
Mm,
So like
yeah.
I see it's mainly in America where there's big corporates buying millions of acres of land and basically just trying to own the food system, taking it away from the people.
Yeah, I
So
guess like capitalism
yeah,
at its yeah, do this thing.
yeah. So
uh,
that's kind of what when you talk about the food, what was the term again?
food security.
Food security, but also like when you talked about the areas where food deserts, for example, who's the one controlling the food there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it a corporate or is it someone locally?
yeah,
But
exactly.
then again, how are we being empowered to grow our own food? I don't know. I mean, we're not taught it as kids in school. You're only really if it's your kind of family or if you're from like kind of farm, Should it be something that should be taught? Like,
Yeah, like I suppose it just depends on on the worldview and the framework, So I don't want to be like romanticizing things either, where it's like, oh, if we all just went out and grew our own tomatoes, the world would be a better place. It's more like the democratic process of coming to have a better supply of food around you. Um, like we import so much food into this country, and there's so many different types of food that we could be growing. Um, and so it's like a conversation with farmers. Um,
is that
that's
something you have?
Well, Seal Decree, so Seal Decree is an organization in Monaghan, and I work with them very, very closely, and they do a lot of work with farmers, So it's about connecting farmers with each other. Like that's a really important part of the work. Is that peer-to-peer support, then connecting them to ideas of what like regenerative principles, what they can do in their own specific context. And so there's a lot of great farmers in Ireland, and they're very forthcoming with like the practices, like what they've done on their land, and like how it's improved their soil, and like helped like their like habitat management on their farm and so on. So yeah, it's about like appreciating what farming, I guess it's appreciating what farming is, and like kind of like accepting where we're at, and then moving forward, um in looking at your locality and moving forward with the farmers and the land workers in that area to produce food on a community level. Um, and it takes everyone. Like it's not just about the farmer. You know, like the farmer needs that support. Like they really like farmers who are looking after the land, that are relying on direct selling really need our support. Um, and it's empowering. It's empowering for for everyone who's eating, and it's also empowering for the farmer. Especially
That farmer then though has to change his way, and that's another challenge that I think sometimes farmers face because they're been on this road with all the other farmers that whatever way they produce, and then to change that then is you nearly need to change your community. Do you know what I mean? So I think
yeah,
there's that element of it's uncomfortable for them to walk a different path, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So how do you empower them to do that? Do you know? Because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of judgment too. He's like, oh Jesus, what are you doing that for? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And yeah, and that is why the work of like Sealch Cree and say like Talamh Bio and so on, like that's why it's so, so vital, because it's getting the farmers in the same room. It's like getting to talk about things that might be uncomfortable. It's like looking at what's possible, and helping farmers build confidence in themselves, that they can steward the land and produce food. And then I guess uh, the area that I advocate for then is for communities to step forward and support those farmers, and to really understand how valuable it is to be able to eat healthy food that has been grown by someone that you can physically go to see, you know?
And that's not just plants, not beige, it's animals too. Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, like animals that are being eaten off,
yeah. I suppose,
natural fed.
yeah, like as I mentioned, I was like turned vegetarian when I was 7, but have recently ate meat.
Why?
So why did I do it? I ate venison, because I had actually been thinking for quite a number of years that like I just that venison, like deer, it just makes a lot of sense to eat deer. You know, we need more forests in Ireland, and deer are forest dwelling animals. And like to bring back the forest and bring back the deer, but then we also like there's no it's not like there's any wolves like hunting the deer, so then like why wouldn't we? And if it's a way of getting meat without actually having to do like factory farming or other types of farming. And yeah, so I think that it's like looking after nature and farming and trying to do that both of those things together. And when you look at it from the perspective of looking after nature, then sure, venison seems like a really good option, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's wild. They need to be culled. So
Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah, I know there's wild deers. I haven't seen many of them. I think I seen one time driving up the road. Couldn't believe it, the size of it. It was a huge stag, like. But are they are in a show, aren't they?
I
I know I
I
haven't seen them, so I can't confirm.
I haven't seen any deer in an initial.
So they're not then.
Yeah, like I haven't. I'm not to my
You're not
knowledge. I
aware.
don't.
No.
No, no. Maybe they are, but not to my knowledge.
There's something too about the idea of going out and catching your own food. Do you know?
Mhm.
Something, and then obviously that's what I had John Duffy on as a guest. He does all that. Um, so I can't remember if we spoke about, but he's making venison bars now, protein bars.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're launched yet, no, but I know that's something he's working on. But yeah, I think they do workshops where people can come and they can learn to literally, like, I'm not sure what the right term is for it, but cut the animal, get the meat and cook it, and there's that kind of bringing people together again, and the value of like doing things as a community, you know.
exactly. Yeah, so John also works with Silch Cree and so these regenerative ag
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, like that's exactly it. And also like Lucille Hagen of Wild Lake. She'd be a great person to interview.
Yeah.
So her and John also work together and she does like honoring the deer like weekends and things like that, like ancestral skills stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like there's the whole like farming better and looking after the soil part. But then there's like, oh, can we cultivate or not even cultivate, but can we help wild places to thrive by interacting with them, I like interacting with the forest in a way that's nourishing for us and also for the forest. And so it's yeah, like growing your own tomatoes, but also foraging nettles and appreciating what we have to do those things in a way that helps life thrive and isn't destroying the soil or isn't over harvesting from forests or so. And then like for me, I suppose when I moved back from Scotland, so I had done my permaculture stuff, was ready to do like lots of like mushroom work. I was find myself in a position like I find myself coping with a lot of shame around not knowing, like not being able to identify certain plants, not being able to identify certain trees, not knowing enough to be able to protect the nature that I was becoming to care so much about. And through that I realized that I really just had to first of all accept it, to accept that I had been and I still am disconnected from the natural world and not connected in ways that I want to be. um and so it was accepting it and then also uh connecting with other people and talking to people and asking questions and like the likes of um like Claire and Kevin and or like connecting with other groups. Um so yeah, like since I've come back, connecting with Silch Cree and change makers and the Mill River group and Tav Bio and like yeah, Claire and Kevin, KPM Soils and like loads of different people, like more mushroom people as well, like Courtney Tyler of Hips and Haws, and yeah, like just there's like an endless list of people and organizations that I have built a relationship with myself to be able to empower myself to have a better relationship with the land and the natural world around me. And that means like sometimes asking stupid questions and it means sometimes asking the same question over and over again, and it means like a lot of like listening and yeah, being humble, and also just like really valuing the people that we have around us who do have this knowledge to depart. And then it's showing that there are a lot of great groups who are doing things. Um,
Yeah, there
yeah.
used to be community, a good community there. So as I started having a few chats, I realized everybody knows everybody, you know. So it's great, not just in Donegal, even further, like, and other counties. Everyone's still all connected. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot there. You know, if someone did feel like reaching out to someone, like there's great support, and everybody wants to help everybody too.
yes, exactly. It's not about doing it on your own. It's not about having to be like the expert, you know, and uh we really do quite literally like need each other to be able to like progress. And again, that's like back to tourism, is that like that's why it is so important to be able to share knowledge and share energy, and like that concept of like the mehel and coming together on the land, on yeah, coming together in the land to be able to like help each other do work, like many hands make light work. And uh that's what it's all about for me.
Good, good. It's been a pleasure, Joanne, having you on today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If people want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch?
I suppose if you get in touch with me on Instagram,
What's your handle?
myco crack. So like myco,
How'd you spell it?
myco. Myco is in fungi, and then crack is in crack. CRAIC.
Irish.
Yeah. So it's like crack, fungi
Cool.
crack.
Cool, cool, cool. Cool. And you run workshops.
Yeah, like I run workshops when I'm asked to.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, actually I don't know when this will be online, but I have one coming up on Monday the 23rd. Uh it's just like an online session for beginners. I'm available to like organize. I usually just like work with organizations who are ready, who are like up, who are ready, so they'll get in touch with me. Yeah, so it's always great if you have access to like logs and substrate first. Um, but yeah, I don't run them regularly from a certain place. But if people want to work together to organize to run a workshop for a certain group, then that's generally how it's working these days.
Oh, cool, cool. So, Sales Decree, can you tell me, like, what is it about that, or how you find it, or why?
Yeah, so Seal Chakri, I found Seal Chakri through working with someone in through Changemakers. Basically, like I came back, I got involved with Changemakers, and then I met someone who was involved with Seal Chakri. She was like, "Oh, you should come down. Seal Chakri's doing this soil course. It's like a 10-day soil course. There's going to be like loads of people there. It's going to be great crack." And it's like, right. So I went down. And it's a permaculture farm and education center.
What is permaculture? If you can give me a
It's like
definition.
a design, it's a holistic design approach. So it could, if when you do permaculture design, you're typically talking about like your water systems and your pathways and your compost system. It's kind of like how everything comes together in a design that makes sense in the whole. And so yeah, it's a permaculture farm and education center, and there it's all about like working with communities and working with farmers to be able to like serve ecosystems and protect ecosystems and also produce our own food. And so I landed down there and I was like, well, this is completely aligned to what I'm doing, what I'm all about. And I said, yeah, hi, I'm Joanne. I'm really interested in mushrooms and yeah, like local food and everything. And I really connected with the team there. And yeah, I remember like they were like I was just a visitor at the time, but the team were having like a team huddle. I remember looking at them thinking like I want to be in that team. And now I am, which is really great because they're great people. And so Gareth, um, who who's one of the people who set up Steel Tree, was like he is really instrumental in me like moving forward with the work that I do in Ireland because like I came back to Ireland and I was like, I don't really know anyone here. I don't really know what's happening. But then Gareth like gave me this little push. He was like, why don't you do the mushroom workshops? And like you could do your mushroom workshops here, or he was just like very encouraging. And then he asked me if I wanted to go to job shadow someone in or job shadow kind of like anybody in Europe, and we could like secure the funding so that I could go and do that. And yeah, I found a bunch of mushroom people in Greece.
Where in Greece?
So Peloponnese in the peninsula. It's like Kalamata olives. You ever heard of them? No, it's like an area.
No,
It's
I'm just curious. I've been to an island on Greece off Athens, but yeah.
Oh,
East
right,
Street.
okay, right. Yeah, no, I did go to Crete as well then eventually, but so I found this group and of mushroom people, and there was one person in particular who was focusing on soil fungi. And so I just kind of like locked it in my head. I was like, I want to job shadow him. Like, that's just it. And then I got in touch with them. He was like, you seem very dedicated. Okay, you can come over. And it's okay, great. And then I spent a couple of weeks in Peloponnese, where we were just like growing mushrooms and yeah, like going foraging and doing some things like that. And then the couple of months after that, I was on Crete, on the island of Crete, and growing like or doing a lot of work with like soil and syntropic farming. So
And what?
syntropic farming.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so syntropic farming's about like growing food in a way that mimics how forests grow, you
Okay.
know. So it's about like feeding the soil through like growing plants that you can like chop and drop and feed the soil, and then also like growing plants in according to like their needs for light, and it can be like very dense. So you can be getting it can be a lot of work, but you can also get a lot of food production out of a small area. And so the fella I was staying with was very, very much into like growing mushrooms and tending the soil and uh yeah, like growing like a diversity of different foods on his relatively small farm. So we had like pomegranates, bananas, citrus fruit. And yeah, like being in Greece it really deepened my knowledge of what's going on in the soil and how to interact with the, like ways that we can approach farming that are more about working with nature than working with the natural systems that are going that nature wants to.
As opposed to manipulating nature the way you want it to be.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose there is still like it's still a degree of manipulation there, like if you're going to prune and plant in certain ways. But yeah, being in Greece, it was the it was just really closely living on the land. Like, there'd be days where we would just be like out with the machete, like cutting back like banana foliage or um like wood chipping, a lot of wood chipping. And then using that wood chip, so we use like different types of substrate for growing mushrooms. Like and then like tested um how mushrooms grew on the different types of substrate.
And what did you find?
That well, oyster mushrooms grow great on a lot of things. So we kind of did like, yeah, what they grew, they grew fine. It wasn't really so much of an experiment. More just like, oh, this is vetiver. So like vetivers, it's a strong plant that grows in like damp areas. So he had quite a lot of vetiver around his pond. So we were like chopping back the vetiver, dried it out, and grew some moisture mushrooms on it. We chopped back the cattails. Do you know that plant that kind of grows in like pond areas? It kind of looks like a giant matchstick.
Yes, I think I
Yeah.
do. Does it have a leaf that comes off? No,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're really tall.
Yeah.
Like our height.
Mm.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like
What's the name of them?
cattails?
Cattails.
Yeah. So we like cut them back and like grew mushrooms on them. We like whenever we harvested the pecan nuts, we also like did some pruning, and then we uh chipped the pecan tree like wood, and then like grew mushrooms on that. And then also just like a lot of wood chipping and putting that increasing the amount of organic matter in the soil. And he also had a system where he had an irrigation system, which is quite important in a place that never rains. Very rarely rains. And yeah, in his irrigation system he would put like fish hydrolysate. So it's basically like fermented, blitzed up fish. And also like spores. Like he would go there was he had mushroom growers, friends who were mushroom growers. And so when you're doing indoor mushroom cultivation, you have to have a way to like fan, like for your air, like air ventilation is like really important. And like a lot of the time in the filter you'll get a lot of spores like building up, and they're going to have to like get cleaned out eventually. So then his friends just like cleaned out their filter, which is full of spores, and then was able to give him like a jar of spores. And then we were using that in the irrigation, like putting some into the irrigation system, and then that's basically like spreading the fungal spores around his land, down into the places where we had wood chipped, and basically like introducing fungal life into um a place where there is lots of suitable substrate. So then it's going to help with the decomposition and the build of that substrate, and then also building soil as well.
And then the knock-on effect would plants would thrive. No. Yes.
Yeah. Well, everything's thriving. Um, his approach is like, are you creating life? Are you, are you, is your interactions with the place that you're gardening or growing food? Are those interactions producing the conditions to be able to support lots of different types of life or not?
Mm.
And then that's kind of like the guiding principle. And yeah, like we did some work with mycorrhizae as well, and like went out to places that have bad soil. We went to places that where the soil conditions were really poor, so it was like quite a lot of drought, quite dry, maybe at the edge of a road.
Well, I imagine in them parts of Europe, the soil is really dry.
Yeah.
At some time anyway.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So how is that soil? Is that healthy, or because it's not that it's not healthy, it's just dry, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like, how healthy are you if you don't get watered?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, the plants that are living there in that soil, they're alive somehow.
Mm.
So the idea was that we took those plants, harvest them from the root, and then took the plants back to his farm and like chopped up the roots and mixed it in with new soil, right, into a pot, and then planted other plants in that. And the idea is that you're bringing the fungal life from that is still succeeding in the bad soil, and your transplant is like a soil transplant almost into the new soil. Um, and yeah, so it was like working with mycorrhizae in a way, you know, like without actually being super high tech and scientific about it, and using a microscope and saying, or doing like DNA analysis and being like, oh, like this type of fungi are definitely there. It's not like, it wasn't like that. It was more just like based on theory that we would be transplanting some of the soil um soil microbiology from even a place that where the conditions are harsher, you know, where there has to be, for that plant to be growing, there has to be life in the soil.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so it was like little experiments with that, like that. And yeah, and then also in Greece, when I was in Peloponnese, there was a huge fire. Like it was like,
What year was
this was 2004, 5,
2004.
2004. Sorry, 2024.
Yeah. That's good. So you were young.
No, 2024. Um, and uh, there was this huge fire, and our phones were beeping. It was like SOS everywhere.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. Like,
So what was your initial thought? Because I think in Ireland we would probably be like, things will be grand. But I mean, you hear about forest fires or whatever kind of fires abroad, they're dangerous. Like, so what
it
was
was
that?
like
Did you react?
thousands and thousands of acres.
This is what it was.
And
Thousands of acres on
it was
fire.
thousands of acres, and it was just at the other side of we were in kind of like a valley. It was, you know, it took us about half an hour to get to the destination in the mountains from sea level. So you can just imagine that you're just going up for half an hour. Once you're up, you're up. It's not easy to get back down again. And yeah, there was this like a huge fire that just seemed to be like around the corner. And people were like, the locals were like, oh, you know, there does be fires, but they don't really come here. Like this valley is like somehow protected. I was like, okay, but I was looking at locals and
You were what?
I was looking at them, and they did not look calm. And yeah, so I was really freaking out.
Okay.
I really was freaking
What
out.
were you? So you thought, oh, I'm not gonna get out here.
Yeah, it was just the first time that it had happened as well. So like, you know, I'd not experienced anything like that before. So anyway, it was grand. Well, it wasn't grand. Two people did die. But us in that valley, we were all fine, and the fire didn't come to us.
But I mean,
But yeah, so it was really hit home just what that experience is like. And yeah, we've got other problems in Ireland, like fires, not so much, but yeah, like flooding and things is an issue.
yeah.
But yeah, like I hadn't yeah, it just really opened my eyes to like what life is like for people who live in countries that have high fire risk. So then it was just by coincidence, a few days later, I was on Instagram and I came across, it's actually a mycologist who's based in California, who I had met before. I'd met her in Scotland very, very briefly. And she does a lot of work around remediation with fungi. So she'll work with different fungal species to be able to see how she can remediate land. It basically means to address pollution. And so yeah, it was a couple of days after the fire in Greece, and I was scrolling down, and she had something going on in California where it was like, if you're interested in working with fungi to address risks around fire and to address risks around flooding, then, she'd come to us. So I emailed her. I was like, hey, we met a few years ago. Probably don't remember me, but I know people in Greece who are interested in working with fungi and also have fire issues. And I also know people in Ireland who are interested in working with fungi and have like flooding issues. So why don't you do this work online? And I'll get people from Greece to go, and I'll get people from Ireland to go. And she emailed back. Her name's Maya Elson. She emailed back and I was like, oh, I was thinking about you yesterday. And I was like, it's such a funny coincidence. And she said that she was going to come to England anyway, and she wanted to go to Ireland. I was the only person that she knew in Ireland, so the fact that I'd emailed her was, I think, pretty like serendipitous. So then she did come over, and we did a workshop in Buncrana, and we also did a workshop down in Sailch Cree. And it's about, like, she told us about her work in California, where if there's a forest fire, the idea is that there's a forest fire and then it rains and then there's toxic runoff into, it could be like a burnt out car. There's lots of reasons where you could get different toxins like after a fire. So she makes these things called wattles.
Waddle?
A wattle, yeah, it's like a giant sausage that's filled with straw and mycelium. There's mushrooms growing on it. And she'll like line those wattles up like along like where the water's going to run off, so the water doesn't run off into the river but instead is absorbed by this giant kind of sausage thing. So the organization is called Co-Renew, and that's what her research has been all about. It's like, what's the effectiveness of using these wattles, which is basically the mycelium is going to absorb what is the mycelium going to absorb? That's like her question for her research. And like, is it working? And so that was, yeah, it was really great to have her over and like talk about the different ways that we can work with fungi to remediate soil or remediate water. And yeah, and then it was just, to be in Greece with people there who are looking to work and partner with fungi for building soil, for like growing food, for cleaning water, and then also to have connected with this California mycologist, and then bring her to Ireland and give people the opportunity to connect with her work, so like the Buncrana workshop as well, like we did it with the Mill River group, and so they're a group of people who work to protect the Mill River, and yeah, it's like it was really rewarding to bring that knowledge and insight to the community here.
Yes.
And yeah, because like there's a lot of knowledge out there in the world. It's just about like bringing it down to earth and down to the ground.
Yeah, and also it's having the people around you too, like the network as well.
Yeah.
If you don't know it, somebody else will. It sounds like you have a really good network for all that too.
Yeah, I guess there's like the mycelial network, and then like that's kind of like a metaphor, for the connections and the network of people and groups that we have, to be able to protect nature and grow food and be happy.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best with everything, all the projects you're involved in. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to be here.
Thank you. You said so.